Okay, so we are back in Hilchos Torah, but there's 2 points I want to make before we start, or before we resume what we were doing. The second one is related. The first one is not directly related. Okay, the first one is in Perek Aleph Halacha Yud, just the first part of the halacha. He says, Ad emasai chayav lilmod Torah, until when are you obligated to learn Torah? Ad yom moso, until the day of his death. Shneimar, it says, Ufen yisuru milvavcha kol yemei chayecha. Lest you remove, as it says, lest you remove them from your heart all the days of your life. And then he says, and as long as he is not involved in his learning, he forgets, right? So I think when we read it, well, what did you assume it meant that he forgets? Like that as long as you have to keep learning, because if you don't learn, then you forget.
Forgets what he learns.
Yeah, it's just plain shot. He forgets what he learns, right? So that certainly is true, and especially in the time of not at the Rambam, but at the time when the entire Torah Baal Peh was dependent on being passed down Baal Peh. So then, if you forget, not only is it your loss, but it could also endanger the Masorah. However, there's another thing that I want to point this out, and I can't prove that the Rambam holds this, but it seems like it's a universal enough idea that like it's not unreasonable that the Rambam holds this, which is when we talk about forgetting in Torah, we don't just mean forgetting information or forgetting ideas. We also mean that the thing. We also mean losing the reality of the thing in your mind. Okay, and what I mean by that is it says, for example, when Klal Yisrael becomes wealthy, v'shachachta es Hashem Elokecha, you'll forget Hashem your God. That shichachas Hashem doesn't mean that you forget Hilchos Yesod HaTorah. It means that the reality of God is not what is determining the way that you relate to the world and the way that you live, and that's called shichacha. And there are plenty of other examples of that, of forgetting God or forgetting, Yetzias Mitzrayim, or forgetting, Amalek. It's not just like when we say don't forget Amalek, we don't mean like someone says Amalek and you say who, we mean that you forget that the import of the idea doesn't guide your life. And so I think it's reasonable to assume that the Rambam is concerned not just about forgetting particular bits of learning, but you have to keep on refreshing the ideas of Torah in your mind. Otherwise, you have this other kind of shechacha where the reality doesn't impact you. So I don't know why I thought of that. I think I saw someone quote that pasuk and apply shichacha in that way, and I was thinking it's important to mention in regards to the Rambam here. Okay, second point has to do with what we said. So this I posted in our discussion chat, which is about the Keser Torah, and I just wanted to get it on the recording, which is we were wondering what the Keser Torah is, the Crown of Torah, and I remember I said that I remember that there was one source that felt very important that I couldn't remember what it was, and the source was a stanza in Dror Yikra where it says, De'e chachma lenafshecha v'hi cheser l'roshecha. No chachma for your soul, and it will be a crown on your head. So there, crown is used as a mashal for the chachma that you know. And the reason why I rejoiced when I saw that was because we speculated that might be what the Rambam means here, because in Hilchos Tshuva, when he talks about how in Olam Haba, tzaddikim sit with their crowns on their head and their nanim is Ashchina, there he said that the crown is a mashal for the chachma that you knew that got you to Olam Haba. But I was in doubt for two reasons. One reason was because there it's called Atara, not Keser, and there it's in Olam Haba, not in Olam Hazeh. But the fact that this Dror Yikra applies it to Olam Hazeh means that it could also apply to Olam Hazeh. And we said that even though the Rambam himself doesn't use that, it does seem like that is a reasonable assumption given everything we said about the crown. And that was written by Donish ibn Levrat, who was a chacham, not just some random python. So that's what we said there. Okay, and let me just close that door. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so now we're picking up where we left off in Hilchos Talmud Torah Gimel Vav. Okay, so he said, so we spent like infinite time on the first line, but now we were delving into the particulars. So he says, someone who wants to fulfill this mitzvah properly for it and to be crowned with the crown of Torah, he shouldn't distract his mind with other things. And he shouldn't make his heart set on acquiring Torah with wealth and kavod as one. So that's what, oh, so then he said, so that we said that you can't be competing in two value systems of wanting to get Torah and kavod or Torah and wealth. You have to either be, because to the extent that you're going to be investing your energy in getting wealth and honor is going to diminish from your ability to get Torah. That was our idea from last time. Then kahu darko shel Torah pas b'melach tochel dal har tishan b'chay tsar techia uvatorah ata amel. So there we said it doesn't mean that you should eat bread with salt and sleep on the ground and live a life of suffering. It means you should be willing to do that in order to acquire Torah. And you can't say that, oh, I'm going to wait till conditions are good to learn. Like, oh, I got a bad sleep, I can't go to shiur today. Like, you have to be able to like press on in order to if you want to get the Kesser Torah. Otherwise, you're just gonna you're gonna lose many opportunities, and you're also gonna not succeed in like wiring your energy to the endeavor of mastering Torah. It's gonna be like a half-hearted thing. Okay, so I think. Oh, and then we read one more, but I don't know if we had an idea for this. He says what Torah to Amel v'lo alecha kol melacha ligmor v'lo ben chorin libatel. So it is not all the work is upon you to complete, and you are not free to abstain from it. I don't know if we looked at that in the Rambam, because I honestly don't know if there is a Rambam on this. I'm going to pause for a second. Yeah, so not all the malacha is upon you to complete, and you are not free to abstain from it. And we kind of squabbled on what the implications are of ben chorin, because ben chorin is the opposite of eved. It's not the opposite of worker, to my knowledge. So what's the idea? So we said not all the malacha is upon you to complete, and we said that is counteracting the havamina that I have to do all of it, and since I can't, then what's the point? So we've noted, first of all, you never use that reasoning for wealth. You never use that reasoning for any other good, rationally at least. So why would you use it for Torah? And then v'lo ata ben chorin libatel, you're not free to abstain. So that seems to be addressing another thing, that it's kind of like an optional thing. I think that's a better shot. Meaning, in reality, you were created to learn and to teach Torah, or at least you're commanded as a Jew to do that. So you're not free to abstain from it. So what's the particular distortion of viewing yourself as a ben chorin in terms of Torah? In fact, I'm going to show you a weird source. I know one other place where the Rambam uses ben chorin. This might not be the only one, but if you look at Hilchos, Sefer Shoftim Hilchos Avel. Okay, I'm going to go share the screen here, which is towards the end of Sefer Shoftim. And again, I don't know if this is the only place where he uses the phrase. Avel, second to the last section, and it is in the first halacha. Yeah. So first parak. I mean, not the first halacha. First parak, and this is talking about so halacha yud. Okay, so this is talking about people. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so he says, so this is talking about people who you do and don't have to have avelus over. So he says in halacha yud, kol ha-porshin midarchei tzibor, anyone who separates from the ways of the congregation. V'him ha'anashim, these are people sheparku ol ha-mitzvos me'al tzavaran. They cast off yoke of mitzvos from upon their neck. V'ina nichlalim b'chlal Yisrael b'asiyas ha-mitzvos b'chavod ha-mu'ados, and they are not included in Klal Yisrael in the doing of mitzvos and in the honoring of the holidays. The yeshivas bate knesios, bate midrashas, and in sitting in the shuls and the bate midrash. Ella hari hein kach b'nei chorin la'atman. It's like they are b'nei chorin unto themselves. Kishar ha'umos, like the other nations. Okay, we'll go back to that in a second. V'chein haminim ha'mushmadim ha'mosrim. Same thing with the heretics and the apostates and the informers. Kol elu einam yis'ablin alein. We don't do avelus on any of these guys. Ela achehem ushar krovehem, rather their brothers and their other relatives, lovshim lavanim umisatvim lavanim. They dress in white and they wrap themselves in white. V'ochlim v'shosim v'shmechim, and they eat and drink and rejoice. So you have a party instead of avelus. She'avdu sonav shel kadosh baruch hu, because the enemies of God have perished. Ve'aleim akasav omer halom esan echad Hashem esneh. Says in Tehillim, those who Hashem hates, I hate. Yeah. So you see from here that when he says b'nei chorin la'atzman, he doesn't just mean people who don't, who are not avadim. He means people who live life as though they have no responsibilities or no obligations, kashar ha'umos, like the other nations, so that I feel like is a connotation of b'nei chorin. Ad da'asis lahachi, while we're here, I'm just going to look and see if the Rambam does use the phrase b'nei chorin or ben chorin, actually. Let's look at ben chorin in the Mishnah Torah elsewhere. For all I know, he could use it a billion places in Hilchos Avadim, but let's see. You never know until you search. So the Rambam says, let's see. Okay, Rambam. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of references. He uses it 100 times in the Mishnah Torah, unless the search is being inexact. Let's find out.
Or maybe it's like, I was gonna say in the Haggadah, but it's not the only one.
Oh yeah, it's only once. Yeah, you're right. That's another place where you could use it. Yeah, b'nei chorin. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, this is just not searching correctly. There's our thing, b'nei chorin. Okay, so he does use b'nei chorin just for non-slaves. This is he's talking about defining who belongs in the minyan, but that's like literal. Whoa, that is way too big. Hold on. Oh my. Okay, hold on here. Rambam Mishnah Torah. B'nei chorin. Yeah, so that's b'nei chorin. Ben chorin. So that's literally ben chorin is a slave. What I'm looking for is, does he only use it in terms of slaves, or does he also use it in terms of like people who are just working? And so far, I'm only seeing the opposite of slaves. Yes, this is also. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption that my initial assumption is correct, that the only times b'nei chorin are used in terms of avadim. Yeah. So just going back now to the Mishnah Torah here. So I do think he means like, okay, so the mistake is, okay, so here just to state the idea. You are not responsible for doing all the malacha. So that means that's refuting the havmina of, oh, I am responsible for doing all the malacha, and since I can't, therefore I don't have to do any of it. And we said that is refuted because the Torah is good and the more the merrier. But then v'lo ata ben chorin lebatel, that's the mistake of viewing it as an optional thing, not as a duty or responsibility. So can we go into that a little bit more? What exactly is the feeling of not relating to Torah as a duty? And I do think that people view it this way. Like, I think the average Jew, knows that Talmud Torah is a mitzvah. But I think that at least I can't speak outside of our society here, but I do think that like people have this view of like, okay, fine, everyone goes to the Jewish day school system, ideally. But then like there are people who go on and they're involved in learning, and then there's people who are like not involved in learning, So what do those people think who are just not involved in learning? Like it's like, it almost kind of reminds me of like the way people treat sleeping in a sukkah. We're like, okay, like if you're a sukkah sleeper, like then that's it. But like, oh, I'm not a sukkah sleeper, Like it's like, this is not my responsibility to do, that's for other people. So what is that distortion exactly? What's at the root of that distortion? And again, people don't view other mitzvahs like this. Like people don't think that they have. I mean, when I say people, I mean like Jews who are shomer Torah mitzvahs. They don't think that, they don't go to the mitzvah of tefillin and be like, okay, I'm a ben chorin from tefillin, or I'm a ben chorin from like, from tzitzis. Like no, like so. What's this idea of viewing that you're a ben chorin from Torah and that justifies your bittul Torah?
I just found that like this is a good I see, like you can see, man. I guess probably too much of it. Like you can see, worth the go on Ben chorin from avoiding bittul Torah, from avoiding talk about malacha on Shabbos.
Are you saying people do that or they don't?
As in they do that, and it's like it's like a
right.
It's just like it's as in just like avoiding it, like it's a good thing, but
yeah. So
like the reason I'm finding curses is that like they're both kids like an all present thing where even though the Shabbos is not present all the year, it's still like in certain times entirely present. So
Yeah, so I think that that's going to help us refine the question, because I think even that is different than what I'm talking about, because I think people either don't view it as halacha or they downplay the halacha, but I don't think they have an idea of I'm either an Evid or a Ben Chorin. And I think with Torah, I think people do view themselves as like B'nai Chorin about Talmud Torah. Like, and I think I'll just to take one step here, I think it has to do with the fact that they view Talmud Torah as like a lifestyle that certain people choose and certain people don't choose. You know, the mitzvah, the activity of Torah, they view as something that's the lot of every Jew, but they don't view them like what Rambam is essentially saying in the negative. He's saying you are not a Ben Chorin to be batal from Torah. What he's really saying is you are an Eved of Talmud Torah. You know, like you are a servant of the Masorah. You know, of being involved in Talmud Torah, and I think that is where people don't make that step. You know, that I have a duty and a responsibility to be involved in Torah. I mean, and maybe part of the problem is people don't view education like this in general. Like, trying to think, is there an area where people, you know, where people view this? It's funny. People who are fluent in dying languages have this Eved mentality that I have to keep this language going, and if I don't keep it going, then it's going to fade away. You know, that I think is like it's closer to what the ideal is that we're supposed to have about Torah. Not that Torah is dying, but the idea that like I have to devote my life to doing this. And yeah, it's different if you are a teacher or Toraso Manaso, you know, but to the extent that I can be involved in, I have to devote my life to it, you know. And it's funny because all of this is being depicted as all of this is on one side of the equation where he's saying Kaki Dachar Torah, Pas B'melech Tochel, V'alar Tishan, V'chayetzar Tichel, V'torah Ta'am, V'lo Alecha Kol Melecha Ligmor, V'lo Ata Ben Chorim Libata. Aval, so now there's the turn. Aval Imata Hir Besa Torah, Hir Besa Sachar. So the question is, what is that doing? Isn't that true of all mitzvos? The more, well, I guess all mitzvos that are subject to quantity, you know, like let's say mitzvos in general. Here based on mitzvos, here based on sahar. If you've done a lot of mitzvos, you'll get a lot of reward. So why would we think differently for Torah? Or what is this new idea of Torah then? Here based on Torah, here based on sahar.
Can you explain the questions you're asking a little more?
Sure. Yeah. So I kind of moved on to another question without signaling it. So yeah. So let me wrap up the previous one, which I think I've given an approach for. My previous question was, why does he have to tell us that we are not freemen such that we can abstain from Torah? And I said, you don't see this by any other phenomenon. My answer to that question was, people view Talmud Torah as a lifestyle that is a choice. You know, I'm choosing to be a yeshiva, someone who learns in yeshiva, or I'm choosing to be someone who learns Torah. And like other people say, like, oh, I'm choosing to not do that. Like, yeah, Talmud Torah is a mitzvah, but that's not my lifestyle that I've chosen. And Kamash Malan, it's saying, no, you are an Eved of Talmud Torah. You have a duty, you are duty bound to involve yourself in Torah to the extent possible. Does that mean you have to be Rabbi Akiva? No, but it does mean that whatever capacity you have, then you should, you know, view yourself as someone who's duty bound to do that. That's what I was answering for the Ben Chorin. I was trying to answer the question, why does he have to say that you are not a Ben Chorin to abstain from it? So is that part clear before we go into the next part? Okay. Next part is, but if you have increased Torah, you have increased reward. And the reward is according to the and the reward is according to the suffering. So the question I'm asking here now is, isn't this true of mitzvahs in general? That the more mitzvahs you do, the more you've gotten reward. So what's the chiddush for Torah? And then same thing with hasachar lefi hatzar, the reward is according to the suffering. We do say that, I mean, it's quoted in Pirkei Avos as well, as I guess you could debate this. In Pirkei Avos, the statement is about Torah. So I guess you can't say that this is about all mitzvahs. So then I guess the question is, what does it mean that the pain is according to the rewards according to the pain? Yeah, Yosef, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I guess Zion's next position on that.
To me, it sounds like a different thing, and it's in a different paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, that shot we said last time, which is that a person can think, I have to master Torah, and since that's impossible, then I don't have to do any of it. Yeah, and we did establish by just doing a brief search that Ben Chorin is Davka, the opposite of an Eved. Ben Chorin is not just someone who's not working. Yeah, Oren?
Yeah. So it says evolve, so it has to be connected to the prior
Correct.
idea, obviously.
Right.
So I think an idea, maybe like a first step is that because so you would have thought that learning Torah is like a lifestyle choice, and either I can choose that lifestyle or cannot. But Kamash Malan, that's not the case, and actually everyone has to do it.
Mhm.
But even though we can understand that, it's still like a hard thing to. If you're one of these guys who did believe that, now that we don't believe that, that's like a hard switch to make.
Right.
So he's saying that the harder that switch is to make, if you're a guy who's like never learned, you haven't learned since high school, then the Sachar Lipi Hatzar, because like it's really hard to do. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good approach. Okay, so in other words, like this, I'm gonna actually combine that with an intuition I have, and then we'll see if they could merge or if they're gonna be two different ideas. Once I tell you Lo ata ben chorin libatel, which means you are an eved to Torah, you might think, okay, fine, so I have to live this life of like where I have to learn, and it's bad, like the implication is it's suffering or it's bad. But really, first of all, yeah, it is suffering, but you get paid. And the more the suffering is, then the more you get paid. Now you're attaching the suffering to the switch, right? Which is definitely true, but it sounds like he's saying that the suffering, the reward for the suffering is a phenomenon of just the lifestyle in general. So in other words, I'm saying the reason why he's saying aval is because he's trying to tell you, just because you are a servant to Talmud Torah doesn't mean that you just have to do it without pay. It's not like an actual eved. No, you get paid really handsomely for it, and whatever pain you're worried about, that's going to increase your reward. Yeah, Chaim? No, I'm connecting it to all of it, to the possible. It's not to all of it, to the kaki darcha shel Torah. Yeah.
What you're saying is the reference connected to the fact that now that you know there's evidence.
Right.
But the process is going on everything.
Yeah, it is going on everything. It's going on the fact that the reason why I was connecting to the Eved is because that's the thing that makes you feel bound, but really this is true of everything, meaning that even though you're eating bread and salt and sleeping on the ground and living a life of tsar, you are getting paid a lot of reward, and the more pain, the more reward. So the question is, what does that mean? Okay, and I'm going to just highlight the question by saying this is not true for everything. There are things where the more pain you have, it does not mean you get more reward, and so why is Torah the exception, or how is Torah the exception? Yeah. Like, for example, just to use an example here, like, let's say like parenting, like some kids are really, really difficult, and there's nothing that says that the more pain you endure from your difficult kid, then the better the kid is going to turn out. There's just nothing that says that, and it also doesn't say that the more you're going to get out of it as a parent, if like the more pain you get, or a job, like any job, like most jobs, we don't say that you get paid a greater hourly rate if it's more painful.
Well, we need someone.
Do we?
Like there's no pain, no gain.
But we don't say that about everything. And no pain, no gain is different than haschar lefi hatzar, right? That's the question. That's the question is, what does tsar mean? Does it just mean working harder? Because it doesn't. Because I mean, the reason why I'm assuming tsar means pain is because he does say chai tsar tichye, And I know people translate Lefum Sarah Agra as according to the effort is the reward, but I am very bothered by that translation because, we have different words for effort,
Oh, well, I really doesn't know that.
Right, correct. Yeah, because of the Chayei Tsar and the Pasma Melach stuff, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So this is where I think Ornan's intuition does come in, which is that, and this is consistent with the entire halacha, which is a person, we all start off with our value systems attached to other things. And we saw that from the Rambam's mashal with a kid, right? The first value in any person's life is candy, right? And then from candy, then you go to clothing, and then clothing to money, and then money to kavod, and then kavod to lishma. So the thing is that the process of transferring your energy from a immature value system to the world of Chachma is going to be a painful process, but the rewards you reap from that are going to be tremendous because the learning itself is the sum total of man. That's what we said that the purpose of man is, right? And what you want is you want to be in a situation where you're naturally drawn to learning and you don't have to force yourself to do it. So, and you want that for two reasons. Number one, forcing yourself to do stuff that's painful is painful. And number two is you'll get more done if you do it naturally than if you have to force yourself every time, So you don't have this phenomenon by all things. Like, let's say, for example, with work, let's say you're doing, two people are doing a job and getting paid an hourly rate. One person suffers through it, the other person enjoys it, So no matter what, one guy's going to have a more pleasant experience, but he's not going to get paid more. Here, the more you go through the painful process of attaching your energy to Torah, the more you'll be able you'll be able to involve in Torah. The deeper you're going to get, the further you're going to get, the less pain you're going to have whenever you want to start learning. It's going to pay off. It's an investment, in other words. Yeah, Oren?
Another idea also just on Hier Beta Torah, Hier Beta Sachar, is that after reading V'lo Atad Ben Chorin the Batel, you might have thought okay, so at first I thought that it was either this lifestyle or that lifestyle, but actually it turns out that no, I just need to be an Eved Hashem all the time, and it sucks, but this is my lot in life.
Right.
And so you would have thought you have to go really, really hard all the time. But telling you that the sechar is proportioned according to how much you do. Yeah, there's an idea of varying levels. So you might have had a havamina of I just need to go 100% of the time all the time. But here it's telling you that actually no, you can still do it at the level which you're able to, and whatever level you go to, that's the sechar that you're going to get.
Okay, so I like that idea, and the only thing is I would rather attach that not to hasachar lefi atzar, but to im Hier Besa Torah, Hier Besa Sachar, and to v'lo alecha kol hamalacha.
That's what I was saying. It's on.
That's what you're saying. Okay, yeah. So, but I would also attach to lo alecha kol hamalacha ligmor that I do feel like there are certain people who are so frantic about learning that you want to tell them, okay, buddy, it's not a race. It's quality, not quantity, but there is a quantitative dimension that however much you progress on your developmental level, then the more reward you get. Oh, yeah, Chaim first and then Yosef, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That the more you're involved in
right. Yeah, correct. Right.
That the more pain you find and removing yourself from these other desires, then it changes into a fight when the greater you go in the morning.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay, good. I mean, this is a good restating. Yeah, Yosef.
It seems to me the wrong with, I guess, one that one person who's friendly because it's always do you learn, then it's and there's a sort of know too much. the only way it's too much is if it takes away from future learning.
Yeah,
Like it's
that's funny.
Which is not really too much so much as too much of the second for your own future learning good, like otherwise.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. That there is such a thing as burnout in learning. Where you try to do too much and then it compromises your ability to be involved in learning.
Like in this instance, like it can only be a problem because of if it compromises future learning. Like we can there's no real too much.
Well, I think there is a too much if you think that you can finish it, because I think that that's a distorted idea about Torah also, which now I'm realizing is a different idea here, that you can't finish the. Well, we okay. What we were saying was that the person will think I have to finish it and it's impossible, therefore I don't have to do it. I'm saying it is actually impossible.
I thought that was part of the
I wasn't even. Yeah. So I at the time when I said that, I was thinking that that's just the reasoning the person's saying, that we weren't talking about that it's actually that Torah as a body of knowledge is impossible to actually complete. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I'm hesitant about giving this shot is because we do say filu chachamim filu nevonim filu yodim es kol Torah kula. We do talk about finishing Torah, and I know that that's a phrase, but like, I do think that is a or let's say like any of the volume of Torah that the Rambam mentions in the Hakdama, you could say they know kol Torah, like we say kol Torah kula. It doesn't mean that you penetrate the infinite depths of Hashem. That's why I think what I'm saying now is more of a drush than what I was saying before. What I was saying before is that Torah is finishable, but the person says, since I can't finish it, I don't have to be involved in it. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not possible to know the depths of Torah. Right. It's not possible to know the infinite depths of Torah, but you could. There was a time at which you could know the entire body of Torah B'Ksam and Torah B'Al Peh. Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think that's I don't think that's pshat. Yeah.
Oh no! I thought
you could say it's pshat. I mean, I'm not going to object if you think it's pshat, but yeah, yeah.
I thought that was pshat. I didn't think that was pshat.
Yeah, the reason why I'm not thinking it's pshat is because it's saying that it's just that the malacha is not upon you to complete.
Well, the reason I would say that is because it's not actually like we're talking about like the pieces of Torah right? It's not. Why isn't it all that something right?
That's a good question.
Why?
Right, you should know. Right, yeah. Right, yeah, that's true.
It's not involved.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was the thing that did someone hold on just a second. I'm just gonna pause it. Resume. Okay, I'm content with that for now. So just to summarize here, we have you could if you stopped after Velota ben Chorin Lebatel, you would think that okay, I just have to do this and slave away, and that's it. But he's telling you, no, you get paid a lot. The more you do it, the more you get paid, and it goes according to your developmental level, like Oren was saying. And it also, you even get rewarded for the pain of withdrawing yourself from this other value system, because that will enable you to do even more of this thing, which is intrinsically rewarding. So it's a win-win situation. Okay, let's do Zion now. Shema Tomar, maybe you'll say, Ad she'ekabetz mamon ve'echsor ve'ekra. I got to first, I'll wait until I accumulate money and then I'll go back and learn. I'll go back and read, but I think here we can say read means learn. Ad she'ekne ma she'ani tzarech. First, I got to get what I need, and then I will turn away from my business my dealings, ve'echsor ve'ekra, and I'll go back and I'll learn. Okay. If this thought occurs to you, you will never merit the crown of Torah forever. Ella, rather, rather make your Torah permanent, fixed, essential, however you want to translate keva, umalachta arai, make your work incidental. Val tomar, and do not say likashe epane eshne. When I'm free, I will learn. Shemalotibani, maybe you won't become free. Yeah, Oren?
Okay, 2 immediate questions.
Yeah.
One, what could he possibly mean when he says, if you ever have this thought? Like, what?
I know, right? It sounds hyperbolic.
Yeah, like that. I'll be like that can't be literal because we have all kinds of thoughts, obviously.
It's not how I saw like one day if we're saying that the whole eat like only bread and salt sleep on the ground is just a willingness to do so. If you're willing to do so, then that thought will also not come to your head.
No, but I think what Oren means, tell me if I'm wrong. What Oren means is like this thought just popped into all of our heads. Does that mean that we're all not going to get the crown of Torah? Like, no, he means like if you seriously entertain this thought, that like if you think like if you're the type of person who says, okay, all these other guys, like, they can't do this, but maybe I can pull it off. If you have that thinking, then you're never going to get the Kesser Torah. Yeah. Yeah, that's from Avos. Yeah. Oren, what was your second question?
Yeah, second question is, it's not directly, but we do have this kind of idea of like, if you can either get married or if you can learn Torah, what do you like? That's a whole question.
Right.
So, and that it's not the same, but it seems like a similar kind of thing. And there we're not so harif about it. Like there are circumstances where you are supposed to get married first. So what's the difference?
Okay, so that's a good question. So let me just refine the parameters of the question here. So first of all, I just want to point out, ad she'ekabetz mamon ve'achzor ve'ekra. That seems like making a lot of money, right? Like I'm going to make a lot of money, and then I'm going to go back and learn, right? Whereas ekne ma she'ani tzarech sounds like just a parnasa. Like that sounds like what your needs are, so that's like a much lower level. So just wanted to clarify that as pshat. Then what Oren is referring to, let's just go back to the place where we read it in Hilchos Talmud Torah Aleph. It was up at the top of the page. Hey, right? Aleph Hey. Lolam Yilman Adam Torah v'achkach Yisa Isha. Person should learn Torah and then get married. Shim Nasa Isha Tchila Ein Dat Panuya Lilmod, because if he gets married first, then his mind will not be free to learn. V'im haya yitro miskaber alav ad shenim sash ein libo pano yisa isha v'achkach yilmod Torah. And if his yitzer is overpowering him to the point where his heart is not free, then he should get married first and then learn Torah. Right. Why? I agree with you. Well, it was on the side before, Oren, so you just make sure I understand your question. You're saying in a similar way that we like have these priority thingies, then isn't it reasonable to say that like you should make however much money you need first and then do Torah?
Yeah, you can draw a kind of similar idea. Like, in this case, I needed a wife, and then you can go and get married. Maybe why can't I have some kind of similar idea? But he seems to really hate this idea, but before we're totally okay with it. So what's the fundamental difference?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So Chaim, you want to answer that? Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in terms of married, other things and get married, don't you have like
you should learn first, then get married. Right.
But you only make an exception when you're diving the other. Like if a person is so
preoccupied
in mind wanting to get married.
Yeah.
And can't learn.
Right.
Like there's no option now, right?
Right. That was like a Biddy Evid situation. Right.
But over here, I was talking about the normal things. The guy hit and you're like, oh, I'll make some money now and then I'll learn, but like kind of like I have money, right? Maybe explain why there's not like kids from the money.
Well,
it's because my money you only and then I get something, then you might think, oh, I need more.
Right.
When getting married, you'll get married one time.
Right. Okay, so that's one answer. Let me just summarize the answer just for and then you could give your own answer. So what Chaim is saying is that first of all, we do make priorities when it comes to the marriage thing, which is that you should learn until you can't like, free your mind anymore, and then you get married. But with money, there's a specific trap, which is that you're always going to, like he says himself, maybe you're not going to be free, meaning you're always going to be able to say that I can make more money, or I need more, or like, okay, I provide for myself, but I got to provide for my kids. Oh, I provide for my kids, I got to provide for my grandkids, so it's like an infinite, it lends itself to an infinite thing. Yeah, Yosef? Okay. I think there's a simpler answer, which
Well, I
Right.
don't think you say that, because going back to local law, because like the derech of Torah is dafka a person who is not going to have that type of.
well, here's the thing. I think you're on the right track for how to answer it, but I think it's a more primary answer, which is we're not talking about everyone. We're talking about if you want the Keser Shel Torah, then you can't say this. If you're a normal person and you say, yeah, that's this whole thing. And that's what he says here. Right? So in other words, if you're a normal person, it is reasonable to say, like, I'm going to make however much money I need. So you could say, I'm going to make a lot of money and then I'll learn, right? And I'll retire early and learn, but you could certainly say I'll make however much money I need and then I'll go back to learning. But it's just, if you say that, you're not going to get the Keser Shel Torah. And that's not unreasonable, because again, I think lahavdil, if you apply this to other areas, like other areas of excellence where people are trying to get like the top thing, then we say the same thing. Like if you want to write the best American play, you can't say like, okay, I'm going to go and like work and make a living and then like, get comfortable and then I'll work on this. Like, no, like you don't have that much time. You don't have that much energy. You might not even do it at that point. You have to make this an absolute priority, So I think that's the simplest answer to this question. Is this the Keser Shel Torah? But the question I have though, yeah, so do I. Yeah, but go ahead. Oh, okay, yeah. So that, thankfully, we have a Rambam on. Okay, yeah. But generally, just to ask a pshat question also, isn't this kind of already covered in Vav? Like, didn't we kind of already rule out that you can't seek wealth, and that you have to be content with? I mean, it's not okay. The question is, what is the difference between this and Vav?
Right. You're saying not.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it does feel different. So let's do this. Let's look at the Rambam in Pirkei Avos about Asay Torah Keva. This is the one Pirkei Avos shir I gave at Migdal last year. I don't know if anyone was there. Well, not you. Yeah. So this is in Avos. Let's see, 114. I'll share it. It's in the back. I'll tell you the page number in a second. Share screen. So it is in the second half. It's on page of the book. It is on page. Wait for it. Reish Ayin Beis. Ra'iv LaTorah. Okay, it's the top of the page. Shammai Omer, Asay Torah Keva. Make your Torah fixed or permanent. Okay, that's the only part that we need. Rambam on the right column. Asay Amar Asay Talmud Torah Ha'ikr v'chol shar iskacha zulaso tefilin. Make your Torah learning primary and make all the rest of your involvements secondary. Tefilin. Im nizdamin. If they happen, they happen. And if they don't happen, then there's no harm in their absence. Okay. Va'amru sadikim omrim. Oh, sorry. That's the only part that we need, because the rest of it's on the other part. So what's the big problem here?
I mean, there is a harm in that.
Yeah, right. Right. So the question is this really the course that the Rambam prescribes of like you should treat all your other involvements, your parnasa, like, okay, but if it works out, it works out. And if not, no biggie, like no nezek in their lack, That sounds irrational.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to provide for yourself and your family. And not only that, if you want to prove from the Gemara, which you don't have to say that the Rambam holds like, but the Gemara seems to hold this way, that was the machlokas between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Yishmael, right? Is that Rabbi Yishmael said you should work, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said you should just depend on God, and he'll take care of you. And the Gemara says, Harbe asu k'shnehem, sorry, I don't know the exact lashon. Many people did like both of them. The ones who did like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai failed. The ones who did like Rabbi Yishmael succeeded. Like if you're on the level of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, so then God will feed you with in a cave. But like that's not a course of action that we say for most people. And we say in some halanes. I mean, that's really that way everyone holds by. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. What was that? Hedaro is in its absence or in its lack, meaning that if you're
yeah. The one thing is he's referring to stuff like a roof over your head, like bread. I guess you need to live like roof over your head.
Okay, so one way to take it is that he's lowering the bar extremely, like Yaakov Avinu says in this week's parsha, that he says, that all I need is bread to eat and a garment to have. What? Where does Yaakov say that? Oh, Rambam? Oh, no, the Rambam doesn't say that. I'm saying that that's how you can answer it, is you could say that like, that you're always going to be able to find that kind of stuff. And, but I'm not saying I endorse that answer, but yeah. I'm saying you could say that though.
You need to lower the bar of bread.
Yeah, right. Right. You are still working. That's also true, right? It's just their tafel, right?
Yeah. I guess you're working on
stuff. And you're like, oh, my work and it's happening, and you're working at home.
Whereas like reviewers, where it's like this is, if you have like a career going and you get fired, then it's like a big thing for you. Like,
right.
Couple like I lost my job.
Okay.
Have to find,
yeah. Okay. Good. So
back for some days and find some hardware.
Right. Okay. So the best answer I found is that answer, and I first heard it from Rabbi Chait, and the way he said it is that the Rambam is not, when he says he's not prescribing a course of action for you to do. He's giving you the barometer for whether you've made your Torah ikr and your melacha arai. Okay, namely, people have values in their life by which they measure harm and success. Okay, so for many people, their harm and success is measured in whether they're making money or losing money. And what the Rambam is saying is, how do you know that you've made your Torah ikr? Is if the way that you relate to your work is not that you don't worry and just let God take care of everything. It's that if you like, and let's say this, okay, let's say like your example you just gave, right? You lose a big business deal. Is that a disaster? Like,
I wasn't even saying business deal. I was like saying,
or your job. Let's say you lose your job.
Identity of their career.
Exactly right. So let's say you lose your job. Is that nezek, or is that a practical thing you have to deal with? Versus there are many people that if they have to miss out on a shiur, going to a shiur, they don't view that as nezek. Like, let's say that I have to study for a test, so I have to miss a shiur. They're not viewing that as nezek. So that shows that they've really made their school the ikr and their Talmud Torah awry. But if they're viewing it as like, okay, I have this test that I have to take and I have to miss shiur, this is horrible that I have to miss shiur. So then that shows that you really made your Talmud Torah ikr.
Or they just do bad on the test. I think what you're saying is that you should just do bad on the test.
Well, that I don't.
I think it's like,
so I don't. Right.
Does that make sense?
That's not. You're saying not gonna work. That's not.
Right. Yeah. I don't think
as in like, is it? No, I mean, like, it's not saying the word some, as in the word is secondary.
Am I working secondary every moment? Like, work the whole day, it did not work at all.
Right. Meaning I would be reluctant, I'd be hesitant to say that the Rambam is saying that you should just, be irrational and rely on Hashem for everything. I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm saying like just don't worry about what grade you get on the test. Well, let's say you are trying to get into medical school and you study for the MCATs and or wait, is MCATs given at specific times in the year? I think so, right? Yeah. Right, but you can't just take it anytime, right? Like it's not like I don't think you can take it anytime. Well, right, but let's say that's gonna have practical ramifications whether you get into medical school or not. So he shouldn't just. I don't think he's just saying like don't worry if you fail it. I think he's saying like no, you have to study for it. You have to do stuff, but you don't relate to it as a insurmountable nezek if that happens. You deal with it and move on or whatever. And it's more about the way that you relate to it than the actual decisions you make. Like the Rambam would say, if the Rambam says like, okay, if I make it to the Sultan's palace, great. If not, then I'm not going to worry. No, the Sultan will kill you if you don't make it to the Sultan's place. Like the Rambam would be ludicrous to not worry about it. It's just that he's not, like you said before, he's not making his identity into his work, or he's not making his tov and ra in life, whether he succeeds in the Sultan's eyes or not.
Because I guess you're putting life and death cases like one for lost test is just nowhere even close to that. And also, how much also giving up the shiur? Why aren't you giving up like 2 hours of sleep?
Right. No, there are other options. I was just using that as an example. Yeah. Right. 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 Or say give up a whole night. Well, why not do 2 all nights? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But the main point, I don't want to get caught up in like petty hypotheticals. The point of the pshat is that the Rambam is giving you a way to measure whether your Torah is teva or not, and the way to measure it is where are you experiencing the real nezek? Is your real nezek in terms of your learning, or is your real nezek in terms of your parnasa? Sure.
On that aspect doesn't matter on Torah. Well, then how far does that go? Why do you get Why do you have a job?
Right. Right.
How far do you get
Right.
You don't say how far.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was saying before also about that the Rambam is not suggesting that we just are so many al hanes, because that would be the ultimate nafkamina, of like. Right.
Stuff like that. Let's say we're in a place where welfare is high enough that you could live in the slums without having a job. I think the Rambam would say you should do that.
Should everyone do that? I don't know about that. I mean, look, I'll tell you the real refutation. The real refutation is, or not the real refutation, but the Rambam himself, we spent all that time talking about how he says that you should, do work for, like everyone should get jobs. And, he doesn't say like, stop doing your water carrying if you learn Torah more, and maybe Hashem will make you find a lottery ticket, yeah. There's also, you mentioned the all Tomar whatever. Yeah. That's also in Pirkei Avos. I just want to see. Yeah, I think that's also in the first parak. Can you see if you can find it, and I'll see if I can find it. We'll see who finds it first. I think it's in the first parak. Oh, he quotes it. Okay, thanks. So it's Hillel. Okay, let's just see if we can find it here. Let's see if there's a Rambam on it. Bays, and it might not be Yudad. And here it's on page Reish Ayin Vav. There's a very, very small Rambam, but so it's actually on Reish Ayin Zion, at the very top of the page. Last clause. Al tomar likisha efne eshne shema lotipane. Don't say when I'm free, I'll learn. Maybe you won't be free. And the Rambam says, when I'm free from these dealings. So he says it's like what his friend Shammai said, make your Torah keva. Yeah, right. Yeah. But that is another pitfall, right? Which is similar to the one you said about money, Chaim, which is that, with money, the person says, I'll wait until I get enough and then I'll learn. But the amount that qualifies for enough is just, it keeps on growing, growing, and growing. No, right. I'm accepting your answer from that before, but I'm saying that there's another pitfall when it comes to time, right? Is that I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll always have more time. That's what I'm saying that Hillel is saying. I'm saying there's two pitfalls. There's a pitfall of I'll wait till I get enough money, and that has nothing to do with time. Yeah, right. Yeah, and again, this is the scene. Let me just. Okay, I'm not going to record this because I don't want to get copy strike. But this is the scene in Breaking Bad when actually maybe I'll find it for tomorrow because it'll take me a while to find it. But I'm Maven Yavin. Yeah. What? Yeah. Okay. Fine. All right. So let's stop here for today, and then plan on. I do want to answer what the exact differences between this and the previous halacha is, and also, to me, it is different. I'll wait till I accumulate lots of money and then I'll learn versus I'll wait till I accumulate my needs. I understand a person who has stuff saying like, I'm not going to accumulate a lot of money. But is Ram really saying that you shouldn't like try to establish your basic needs first? That seems, yeah. Yeah, but see, you could read that memra in terms of once you already have your malacha going, but saying I'm going to wait till I take care of my needs. To me, it sounds reckless if you don't do that. And again, you could give my answer and say, well, yeah, he's not saying don't do that. He's just saying you're not going to get the Kesser Torah if you do that. And maybe that's your lot in life. Maybe not. Maybe the only people who can get a Kesser Torah are people who have their needs taken care of. And if you have to choose between taking care of your needs and Kesser Torah, you can only have one. Yeah. All right, let's stop here for today, though. All right, to be continued.